Hi, my name is Jordan Hickey. Today I am going to be talking to you about Sabermetrics, a study in mathematics and sports. Okay, first, what are sabermetrics? These are advanced statistics that measure performance from a player or team. This was made famous by mathematician Bill James, who we will talk about later in a few slides. Currently, it is used in all sports and it continues to grow on a daily basis. Although it started in baseball, sabermetrics have worked itself away through the leagues, and each of the major sports now maintains sabermetrics. This measure combines intuition, mathematics, and technology. The intuition comes from the sabermetricians who use their minds and knowledge of sports to form these formulas which use the mathematics part, and then they are transferred into a technological database in which they are kept and analyzed later. So what came before sabermetrics? There were only a few statistics measured before sabermetrics took off. Some sabermetrics that are around today evolved from previously kept statistics and data, but it takes it much further now than it did. Base statistics were relatively easy to calculate compared to the ones that are calculated today. They use much more complex formulas and a deeper understanding of theory. Box scores were also made popular very early and are still used today. We see box scores in baseball, whether it's runs, hits, errors, outs, or we see it in football where it's just scores and player statistics. We're going to look at some batting sabermetrics in baseball. This first equation, BA equals H over TO plus H. This is the batting average equal to the amount of hits that a team gets over the course of a season divided by the total outs plus hits. These can be measured for a player or a team in general, measured in team batting average, or just individual player batting average. But this was considered a weak statistic, so they created another statistic called on-base percentage. An on-base percentage took a look at the total amount of plate appearances that a player would get or a team would get as compared to how many times they would reach base. Both batting average and on-base percentage will not ever be above 1, or even sometimes will not be above 500. That's 0.500. Sacrifice flyouts are a complex statistic in baseball because people consider a flyout another out. So why is this different? This takes a player flying out as a sacrifice of their bat in the lineup to produce another run. They're risking getting on base and just flying out to get a run home and help their team win. Now we're going to look at pitching sabermetrics. So the key one is the earned runs average, which is seen here by ERA. This is equal to the earned runs times 9, which is the amount of innings in a game, divided by the amount of innings pitched. This could be over the course of a game or a season, and it compiles as the season goes on. The Cy Young Award is the award for the best pitcher in a given league in a season. This could be a National League or American League. The key statistic that they look at for the Cy Young Award is ERA because it's so important to keep other teams to as little runs as possible. So that's the key statistic along with strikeouts. And here we'll see the winning percentage for pitchers, as it's just the total amount of wins that they get over the total games that they've started. That isn't necessarily looked at in the Cy Young race in general because pitchers can pitch wonderfully and the offense can just let it go and allow only one run and they'll still get a loss. So it's not looked at as much as, say, strikeouts or earned run average. Now we take a look at Bill James and his legacy with the statistics. This is a picture of him when he worked for the Red Sox, which it'll talk about it in this slide. He's considered the founding father of sabermetrics and the revolution that he started with statistics and sabermetrics. He served in the Army, he fought in the Vietnam War, and this is where he got his start. He would write down all of his ideas that he thought would go against the game or he thought were different from what the game agreed with. He wrote down his first baseball abstract in 1978 and had another one written in 1981, and he's written many books since then about sports and journalism in general. As I said before, he worked for the Boston Red Sox for 15 years. He was part of one World Series team and retired from baseball in the Red Sox in 2018. And he was also mentioned in the Time 100, which is the 100 most influential people across platforms. This could be for sports, this could be pop culture, music, arts, any of that. And he made it into the top 100 in 2006. Now we look at a pop culture influence that it had. Sabermetrics played a huge part in the movie Moneyball starring Brad Pitt in 2011. Brad Pitt plays Billy Beane, who's the general manager of the Athletics in the early 2000s. And this is actually a true story about how, given a much lower budget than the rest of the teams in Major League Baseball, he turned into a sabermetrician and hired one or two guys to be in the analytics department in his team, and they looked at player statistics and free agents who could make their team better without going over the salary cap. He managed to make some huge trades and free agent pickups during the season to stay under the salary cap, and even had a 20-game win streak, which is one of the highest in the league still today. He managed to make it to the World Series but did not win there. After he got released from the Athletics, he went to the Red Sox and got a job as their general manager and assistant. And with a higher budget, that was almost 3 times or more higher than what the Athletics had. He won the World Series doing the same thing he did with Oakland. And there's many different factors that go into why he had a lower budget with the Athletics, but that's all economics based. And now, Earnshaw Cook's contributions. He is the one that inspired Bill James. He made this book called Percentage Baseball in 1960. And it all started with discussing how the bunt works in baseball and if it was actually statistically influential in scoring runs or getting wins. The ifs that are mentioned here is if Earnshaw Cook did not make this book, there's doubt that Bill James would have ever gotten to where he was and where he got to with his legacy without this book being written. This kind of officially jump-started the statistics and sports knowledge, and Bill James just took it one step further. He also talked a lot about how relief pitchers had been different than what he thought they should be. The league at the time believed in a closure by committee, which is the last person coming to the game to shut the rest of the game down so they win. At the time, relief pitchers were struggling to find a closer role, and so they were alternating closers every day. He also talked about the hit and run statistic and if that would work, if trying to get a lead off of first base or second base, wherever the runners were at the time, and then trying to hit the ball, if that would produce more runs or if they should just stay on base. His book also standardized the game of baseball as we know it today, which had a big contribution in how the game is played. Now we're going to look at how math comes into play. So there's analysis of data and statistics that lead to sabermetrics in the game. This data and statistics comes from formulas which are math-based, and we'll get here into how it uses coding and input formulas to get an output from the data tables and the references, and how these can be used in creating a better game or a better plan to win. There's different aspects of math that are analyzed in the game of baseball. Stat computing is used based off these statistics that are measured and computing these sabermetrics to figure out what a player's salary should be or how they should bat in the lineup. Modeling is based off of graphing and how players have done in the past compared to how their future plans out. And regression can look at their progress, their batting average, calculating statistics to see their progression as a player. The first sabermetric data used was the quality model. This had a runs ratio based theory about it, where A equals B over C, where A is the runs ratio and B is the runs received for a team and C is the runs allowed by a team. This is only measured in proportion, and a ratio of 3 to 1 could actually be 9 to 3 or 210 runs gotten for the team against 70 allowed. It's not a true measure of what they actually had, it's just a proportion base. So now we talked about the basic axiom. The basic axiom is just an unprovable first principle rule of baseball. This can be in any sport, but we talk about the basic axiom as this measure, which is W equals QY over QY minus QX, where Q is the team quality of teams Y and X, and W is the winning percentage. If we say that one team has K times the quality of another, their wins will change by the variable K. So if one team has a quality that's twice as good, we expect them to get double the amount of wins as the other team. It can be a good estimate, although mathematically some people argue that it's not correct when it comes to different measures and if it's actually a good estimate, but statistically we can prove that it is. Next, we look at the log5 model. This was developed by Bill James and it was developed originally as a substitute for the basic axiom. It was originally spoke about in the 1978 baseball abstract and later was fully talked about in the 1981 version. Authors of a website called it the quintessential and original quality model because it has a massive outlook on how the game is today, and it has transpired into other measures that can be beneficial to the game. And we look at this model here. It's the winning percentage equals the win-loss ratio of team Y over the win-loss ratio of team Y plus the win-loss ratio of team X. And what this does is it bases it on quality and predicts head-to-head wins by Team Y. If we wanted to look at the head-to-head wins by Team X, we would flip all these variables, and it would be that one quality plus another quality would be equal to 1. Next, we look at the Pythagorean run formula. This could be in variations of n equals 2 or n just being arbitrary in general. We see this formula as y to the n over y to the n plus x to the n, where x and y are the runs scored for each of the teams. For baseball, Bill James said the best constant for n is 1.82. And for other sports, the n value varies because all sports are not going to have the same n value. This is just what it happens to be for baseball. These excess points scored can affect chance because the more excess points you score, it shows that teams could actually run away with ball games before they're even really a challenge. And so one team could be much better than the other to where luck does not play into it at all. Now we take a look at the marginal winning percentage and the model itself. It looks at the average runs scored by teams in the year and factors in the run differential. It says that the winning percentage is y minus x, which is the run differential, plus a over 2a, where a is the average. The model is used with 3 runs per team per game. This was also developed by Bill James, and this is the given model. It says that G is equal to the games played, which is going to be constant for all teams because all leagues play the same amount of games, and H is equal to 1.5. The reason H is 1.5 is because 2H would be equal to 3, which is how many runs per team per game there are. Now we look at wins per run estimators. This calculates how many wins each run is worth on average, and it goes by the model. The winning percentage is equal to 1/2 plus the run differential times this M value, which is the win per run estimator divided by the amount of games. It's plausible from an analytics standpoint because 1/2 would be an even winning percentage, and you take the run differential and the estimate with the amount of games played, and it will increase or decrease your win percentage based on that number. This has one of the best statistical impacts of this generation. It's had a huge effect on how win percentage is seen today and has actually gone into some calculations today as well. Now we look at the sports relation of sabermetrics. Although this should be obvious, it's used in all sports at some point, especially now. As I said before, it was originally in baseball, and then it made its way around the league and different sports. Different sports can measure different statistics. So in hockey, you can measure stick speed, and in football, you can measure how far a field goal can get kicked, or in baseball, the launch angle of a baseball when it's hit. There's specific sectors for analytics for each team for different leagues. They control the data input and output. And this also goes into the economics field where teams try to profit maximize, and they can do this by getting new players that'll really help and can promote civic pride in the region. So StatCast for baseball is seen here. So Carlos Correa, he hits a home run, has a launch angle of 49 degrees, which is actually incredibly high. It's usually between 15 and 30. The projected home run distance here is 310, which is also extremely low. Usually that's 350 and above. This was developed in 2015, had pitching tracking devices which calculate the velocity, the spin rate, and other metrics. They had Hawkeye cameras all over the stadiums, which would calculate these launch angles, projected home run distance, and exit velocity of balls hit. Data is stored in a database and then will make its way through the front office and will be distributed to different teams and the league in the front office and can later be published publicly. This allowed players to easily watch film from previous games as well, which can help the team win. Next gen stats is seen here where the Green Bay Packers wide receiver gets separation, and this will calculate the separation. This was developed in 2018. It increased fan experience through multiple ways, and technology is enhanced in the stadiums with pylon cams and cameras. They can look at different measurements and form player statistics and projections. The shot tracker is for basketball. As you see here, this was originally called second spectrum, which would look at the arc of the basketball, the distance, and calculate the drive to the basket. Bill Moses had the online scoring system originally placed, which is how we see all the digitally scoring systems today. And he's also the founder of Shot Tracker. This shot tracker technology deals with machine learning and mathematics, and there are actually cameras in the catwalks of basketball stadiums to help calculate this arc length. It measures passing, pull-up shots, jump shots, three-point shooting, and much more. Then you have puck tracking. This is the puck now, and each of these little dots here is inside the puck. There are these little laser trackers. The development of these pucks started in 2015 and brought 2 games in 2021. They rebounded from early failures because the puck didn't slide correctly, and now they can measure puck velocity and stick speed among other sabermetrics. It helped hockey gambling as well because people could bet on the fastest shot in the first period and other things as well. For data keeping importance, analytics departments crunch numbers, whether they're good or bad, so they can help a team and get raw data for their players. It increases competition in leagues and results in a higher revenue. And it can decide a player's salary based on past performance and have brought jobs to math and sports jobs over the years as it's gone on. And then summing up the importance of sabermetrics, it's tied sports and mathematics together for more than 60 years. The metrics are continually growing year to year and on a daily basis. This will lead to a better league and more measurements in the future as technology gets even more enhanced. And without sabermetrics, there would be little to no statistical gain in player performance over the years. And I feel like this has actually gone a long way from what it used to be, and it's going to continue to go a long way. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed.